Good afternoon and a warm welcome to this presentation. We will have the pleasure today to have a discussion with Jean-Philippe Courtois from Microsoft to tell you a little bit more what we are doing together. But let me start sharing with you what we are considering being the key parameters which are changing the world, and these changes are accelerating and are becoming even deeper than what we saw before. And I think the major one is demographics. A few figures to illustrate that. The world population in 2030 will exceed 8 billion people. We were, in 1950, 2.5 billion. It means that we have multiplied by 3.2 in 80 years, the population. It's considerable. The second point, which is important, is urbanization. 60% of the world population will live in cities, and it was before, and you see it here, 50% today. So here again, an acceleration, and this will have significant consequences. We are also speaking about megacities. 43 megacities will exist at that time. It means cities with over 10 million inhabitants. So it's up 30%, and they are mainly located in Asia. Over 30% of the population, speaking about Asia, will be located in China and in India. And the seniors will represent over 25% of the European and the US population, up from 16% in 1980. So growing urbanization, rising Asia, and aging populations are, parameters we have in the automotive industry, but not only, to take seriously into account. We also have to consider significant challenges for the societies in which we are living. So the income inequality is rising. It is at its highest level in the last 50 years, and this is including the situation in China. 1 out of 5 middle-class income households spend more than they earn on a global basis. House prices have grown 3 times faster than the household median income over the last 2 decades. And there's one thing which is, I think, very important for the middle class, and especially for the lower level middle class. Their fixed costs are representing the essential part of their incomes. So it means that they have the impression to have no freedom to decide what and how they will spend their money. It doesn't mean that they are poorer, but they just have, obligations to spend money, or they believe they have obligations to spend money. So it means for us a challenge, which is trying to variabilize a part of these fixed costs. Rising healthcare costs because of the aging population is also a clear issue and a clear challenge in all our Western societies. Finally, the planet, CO2. You see here that, again, we have increased very significantly. We were at 2 billion tons of carbon dioxides in 1900. We are today at 36 billion. The climate has increased by 1 degree already. We know that it will be a significant challenge to keep the coming increase under 2%. And we see what it means. Look at the devastating fires in Australia. I believe that we will see some other catastrophes of this type. When you think about the population, the consumers, they switched quickly from doubts to being threatened by climate change. And we believe that so far the regulators, set the objectives in terms of pollution or depollution. I believe that consumers will take over very quickly, and that we will set the stage. So for us, we have decided to be carbon neutral. We have to deal with mobility services. We have to consider new connectivity possibilities and opportunities. When we speak about carbon neutral, what does it mean for us in the automotive industry? It means zero emissions. Zero emissions, which might be a combination of battery electric vehicles and fuel cell electric vehicles. We don't believe that these full electric vehicles will exceed 20% of the global production volumes at the time, and probably, and 20% is probably even a little bit optimistic. When you look at the consensus is probably more around 15 to 18%. But this said, more than 50% of the vehicles will be electrified in 2030. So plug-in hybrids, each kind of level of hybridization. Carbon neutral is also an interesting topic for us because there's a convergence of interests between the economical targets of the company and the CO2. Consuming less material, consuming less energy means savings. And this is good for the company, it's good for the planet. It means that we have to rethink completely how we design the products, and I will tell you a word about that. Mobility services, there's a kind of consensus in the moment, which might evolve, but we believe that level 4 and level 5 will be dedicated to B2B applications simply because of the affordability issue. We think that for passenger cars, we will probably, for a longer period of time, deal with sophisticated ADAS solutions and L1 to L2, L2 plus solutions from an autonomous driving. For connectivity, we think that we will have to upgrade the cars, but it is no more acceptable for consumers to have frozen functionalities all along the life cycle of their cars. And we will see that we have two possibilities. Or we do it through software, or we do it through a combination of hardware and software. The hardware being, pre-equipping the car or being post-equipments. Just to give you a flavor of what we are speaking about, 700 million cars will be connected by 2025. So it's a huge amount. And very clearly, all of that is only possible if the solutions we will offer, we will propose, are affordable and will allow an affordable mobility. So when we speak about carbon neutral, we are speaking about scope 1, scope 2. Usually this is, what the commitments are of the companies. We have decided to include level 3, but excluding the use of products. The use of products is, the responsibility of the OEMs. Our 2017 estimated CO2 production is around 7.5 million tons. And we have now decided, to reduce that significantly through 4 axes. You have them here. Use less. It means less material, less energy. To give you a concrete example, if you master the variability of plastic injection, and we have 700 presses in worldwide within Faurecia. In this case, you are able to inject at the lower level of the tolerance. It means that you are producing lighter parts with less material, and on the top of that, if you master this variability, you can switch to predictive maintenance, so you need less machines. When we speak about design for the planet, here we have to reinvent, in fact, the way we are managing and designing our products. In terms of materials, which material? In terms of arbitrage, how do we deal with that? We have to give ourselves a level and value for the ton of CO2. This value should be somewhere around 60 to 70 euro per ton. The value in the moment is more closer to 50 euros. Some projections are showing 100 euros. I think it's reasonable to be somewhere in the middle to act correctly. We have to think about new business models in this part. We have to design new business models. We will speak about fuel cells, and I take this example. When you look at a truck, a stack of the fuel cell has a life cycle which is about half of the life cycle of a truck. But when you look at the storage system, it has a life cycle which is 3 times the life cycle of a truck. So for a better use of the material and to consider a circular, economical, optimized approach, we might sell hydrogen per 100 kilometers. And we might master completely the life cycle of these equipments, of all the components of these equipments. We have to buy green. Of course, we have to make sure that we are dealing with the right partners. So we have to educate, the tier 2, the tier 3s. We have to work with them. We also, of course, have to work with the OEMs. We need to make sure that, the arbitrage they will make are aligned with the ones we intend to do. So it's a lot of work which will happen in the months to come. Finally, we have to transport less. We cannot continue to have our parts crossing continents, not to speak about crossing, oceans. So we have to rethink the setup. We have to rethink our manufacturing processes. We have to rethink how we design. Still about carbon neutrality, the zero emission approach. We are clearly believing in hydrogen from the beginning. Why? Because hydrogen is universally available, giving energy independence. For hydrogen, you do not need some specific rare earth materials. The only one you are using is platinum, and platinum is to 100% recyclable. So you have no geopolitical constraints with hydrogen. We spoke about the demographics. Especially for Europe and for the US, we will have to deal and we will have to manage movements of populations, migrations. We will have to deal with this. For Europe, as an example, we might fix the local populations investing in producing renewable energy, transforming this renewable energy into hydrogen in order to store it easily and to transport it easily to the north, where the consumers are. So we will have a lot of this energy available. I had a discussion with a journalist this morning. He said, but the efficiency of the transformation is not good. Who cares? The only thing which is important is the cost. What will be the price delivered of a kilowatt hour? It's the only parameter which counts. When you look at a fuel cell system, today the material content is around 15 to 20%. The material content of a battery electric vehicle will be around 80%. So we have a huge area of improvement and of productivity on the fuel cell side. And we are starting, to really invest in modern industrialization and automation. Now, when you look at this graph, the cradle to grave, you see that with fuel cells, we are at the level, as soon as we are using green electricity, and it's the case for battery electric vehicles on the left-hand side, and for fuel cell electric vehicles, we have the same level of CO2 equivalent produced. And you see also here that the plug-in hybrid is currently the best solution. We are believing that fuel cell will start on utility vehicles, on trucks, but also, why not, on SUVs, where we have the space to put a dual electric system. When you look at the graph here, we believe that in 2030, fuel cell systems, for the assumption which is written here, will be cheaper than battery electric vehicles, making the assumption that battery electric vehicles would work. On trucks, it would not, because the load will be significantly penalized if you are using batteries. So we think that even, with gray hydrogen, we will be able to achieve a total cost of ownership, which will make this business model flying for businesses, for utility and commercial vehicles. We, with Michelin, have invested significantly in the global system, and we are capable to design and produce a full equipment of a hydrogen vehicle. What you need to understand is that when we speak about a hydrogen vehicle, in reality we are speaking about an electric vehicle. So the platform, the powertrain is exactly the same compared to a battery electric vehicle. What we are speaking here about when we compare BEV with FCEV is the electric power supply. In one case, it's stored in batteries. In the other case, it's produced through hydrogen, through an electrolysis inverted. So, starting with an electric vehicle to switch from one to the other is not a big deal. It's a packaging issue. But if you want to do it, it works. We are also working on range extenders, especially for SUVs, which are very interesting. In France, the 31st of July, holidays are starting. And we are all driving south to the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah? And after 300 or 400 kilometers having left Paris, you have an issue with your batteries. And if all of us would have to wait until we will be able to reload, we might wait a long time. If you have a dual power, you have an issue, you have a solution, to get rid of that. I gave also this morning another example which I think is interesting. In Paris, we have every year a snow event. So when we have a snow event in Paris, everything is blocked. We're not really used to deal with that. And we have some hills, when you live Paris. So now think about we would have electric vehicles as a majority of cars. And we will be blocked in this snow event for 3-4 hours, which is happening every year. These cars will be unloaded, and then what do you do to clear up the highway? It's a small problem. I'm saying that not because we are against or hostile or, have some negative considerations about BEVs. I believe that zero emission is the trend. But I also believe that we will have a coexistence of different powertrains considering use cases and different environments on a global scale. I think that for smaller cars with autonomies up to 300 kilometers, urban use, battery electric vehicles are ideal. And this will work. If you need sometimes longer ranges, if you have higher horsepower need, or if you need an intensive use of your car, it will not work. You will need hydrogen or other hybrid solutions. Autonomous mobility services. I told you, and this is, here again, the message, that on level 4 and level 5, we will most probably see it implemented on B2B cases, simply because of the costs. We haven't found any affordable solution for level 4 and level 5. And this is making the assumption that we would have software solutions which would really work. What I think is we will have shuttles, we will have semi-automated cars in urban areas which will improve the mobility alternatives, and this, with a control tower somewhere where from a certain distance you could take back the control of the vehicles. This will probably be implemented in the next years. For the passenger cars, there's no current solution which is affordable. Everything which would be above 2,000 euro would not work. And this is why we believe that we have to concentrate, it's our policy, on ADAS solutions. They have to be more and more sophisticated, of course. We will also have, L1, L2, L2+, maybe up to L3, even if I believe that L3 might be dangerous because you have to take over after having been minds off, which is an issue. How to bring back the driver in a vigilance position. What is our core business is the cockpit of the future. So even if the total autonomy is not for tomorrow, for at least 3 of the people inside the car is already autonomous. And we are not proposing anything interesting for them. So we have to propose new functionalities, new environments. These cars have to be, individualized. They have to be versatile. They have to be adaptive to the people. They have to be easy to use. All of that needs artificial intelligence. All of that needs cloud services, edge computing. And we also understand that in the future, even if we are totally legitimate on the interior of the cars, we need partners. We need an ecosystem which will allow us to be quicker than others to propose these complex solutions. And you see here some of our partners in this domain, and especially Microsoft. And it is my great pleasure to welcome Jean-Philippe Courtois from Microsoft, who is Executive Vice President for Global Sales. It's a very long title, Jean-Philippe.
Thank you, Patrick.
Marketing and Operations.
Thank you, Patrick. Good afternoon all. It's a pleasure. I'm delighted to be on stage with Patrick and to share both our common vision and also some of the common services we are building for those connected services Patrick was talking about. I think when it comes to our automotive strategy, our vision is really to empower automotive companies, but the entire ecosystem as well, and mobility services companies to transform themselves into smart mobility services companies. That's really what is driving us. And actually, when you think about what's enabling that, it's really combining, as Patrick said, the best of cloud, the best of AI, the best of IoT, and also edge technologies with the best also of the cockpit of the future technology as an example, to build those new experiences for people in the car, for the consumers, experiencing those services. And so in that context, we are focusing on 5 areas in terms of strategy. Number 1, we want to empower all that ecosystem to build those connected services at scale. The second goal is also to accelerate the autonomous driving development function that so many of those manufacturers need to build. The third goal is to enable the development of smart mobility services per se. The fourth is really providing marketing, sales, and services cloud-enabled for those companies end-to-end. And the fifth one is really about the smart factory, the intelligent supply chain initiative that many of those large companies need to enable across their companies. So when you think about that holistically, it's really all about enabling manufacturers, OEMs, to enhance their brands so that they can actually do more for the brands. And to be very clear, Microsoft is not in the business of building cars. We're not in the business of actually building end services. We're in the business of providing that enabling platform so that OEMs, automotive companies, can achieve more at the core of their business ecosystem. A great example of that is one of the announcements we made about last year, 2019, with Volkswagen Group, which, as you know, is a pretty large auto manufacturer. And Volkswagen has decided to embark and standardize all of their cloud backend operations on a Microsoft Connected Vehicle platform. And so, in other words, they're going to provision and enable a lot of new digital services over the next couple of years on a fleet of more than 5 million connected cars per year and more. In order to achieve that, they've been building a cloud software unit with 10,000 digital developers working with Microsoft R&D team. They actually just launched a couple of months ago a development unit in Redmond working hand-in-hand with our engineering teams in Redmond to achieve that. So underpinning all of that is what we call the Microsoft Connected Vehicle Platform. And so Microsoft Connected Vehicle Platform, you're going to see on this slide, is really the enabling platform that enables, again, the delivery of safe, comfortable, and personalized driving experiences for the manufacturers, again, of the experiences of the car. In other words, it really enables a set of very diverse set of services, all the way from telematics to over-the-air updates, to predictive services and maintenance, to infotainment in the car, to also, obviously, comfort and more productivity services in the car, we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And all of that combined with the partners ecosystem of more than 19 companies that keep adding more services to that platform, enabling millions of connected services in cars in the world to enable that. So that's what the strategy is all about, Patrick, and I'm really delighted to be with you today to talk about a unique partnership. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may, which is, what about this cockpit of the future strategy, and where do we, Microsoft, fit into that picture?
Not because you are the cheapest.
Thanks for a nice start.
So, the first thing I would like to tell here is that we are completely legitimate. We are, in fact, the only remaining supplier dealing today with all the interior surfaces. And it's not only producing the surfaces, it's also understanding the consumers, the people who are sitting inside and what they do. So we have knowledge, we have expertise about safety, we have expertise about comfort and the different types of comfort. We have an expertise about cognitive possibilities and sciences. So we are able to understand what has to be measured inside the car and what kind of combinations we could make in order to provide not only solutions but experiences to the consumers. And you understand that we cannot do that alone. We have to do that with partners. We need people who have, specific capabilities, and Microsoft is an expert of connected services, cloud, using cloud platform, and you just spoke about that, and we very much appreciate the technology, and edge computing to provide these personalized experiences. And we are also, we think about Microsoft very quickly. When you think about the interior of a car, what will we do? We will work, and I think that this is a little bit of something and we will, entertain ourselves through movies, through gamings, through this type of things. And again, you have a level of expertise and you are providing solutions. The other thing I would like also to say is, it was not easy for us to select our partner in this field. The discussions we had also with your CEO showed an alignment in terms of strategy. And I think that this is absolutely fundamental in the frame of this kind of partnership. And we decided to work immediately on demonstrators, and you have a demonstrator on our booth which will show you what we are capable to do together. And this demonstrator is not there to show our capabilities. We want to sell it. Yeah? We want to make it a business case, and we have started immediately to think about how will we sell it to our customers. What is for you, the main interest of this? It's, the counterpart of the question. Why have you decided to partnership with us?
I think, Patrick, you did a very nice job summarizing the journey we've been on together the last few months, actually, going deeply at the strategic level, but also at the technology level. I think at a high level, it's about having a common vision about that world of fast innovation, of collaboration, fun, but also interior services for the consumers tomorrow. The second thing is, what are we going to do is actually building those services. What we've decided to do is to build 2 MVPs, which are right here at CES, presenting 3 use cases. The 3 use case is, number 1, the collaboration productivity world in which we live. And so what you'll see is basically the opportunity to run teams in the car and have a very immersive experience. Well, as an example, you'll be able to project on a main display the video call while switching the audio into the headrest, actually, through the systems, which is pretty exciting experience you can have for those passengers and people, of course, respecting, of course, the security, compliance processes, all of that being, of course, done. The second key scenario and use case is all about fun through gaming. And you will see actually it's the very first we're going to show, which is for the first time our streaming gaming service, actually cloud, which is called Project X Cloud, in the car. We're going to be able to enable people who want to game on the go in the cars to experience a very immersive gaming party with people in, of course, anywhere in the world, not necessarily in the cars, in a very immersive way. And the third kind of use case is all about the bubble sound that Faurecia has done a lot of great work on, which will enable also to overlay those productivity, collaboration experiences and gaming all together to have this very unique rendering of the sound in a very immersive way. So those are key reasons why we've decided to build that together. And it's what we call, Patrick, the tech intensity at Microsoft, where we co-build together some unique digital services that you're going to create, expand, and co-sell together. And the last point, I think we have also a common set of beliefs when it comes to sustainability. As a company, we are deeply committed as well. And actually, since 2012, we've been carbon neutral. And we have decided to cut our carbon emissions by 75% by 2030, and more to come in the coming weeks, actually, in terms of our commitment. So all that together makes the unique capabilities of Faurecia in interiors and the capacity you have to co-innovate in a wonderful way. Now, let me ask you another follow-up question, Patrick, is as you think about those capabilities we bring to the world, what does it mean in terms of new business models for Faurecia?
Just to rebound on what you said, Jean-Philippe, in this demonstrator, what is interesting is on the one side, you have an office environment with a video conference, and on the other, the passenger is in an immersive gaming environment. And these 2 environments are not disturbing for each other. So we are able, to deal with them completely separately, and this is very impressive when you try them. So about the business models, in this industry, in the automotive industry, usually what is happening, we are first investing on the product innovation. And when we have a solution, when it's feasible, we are starting to think about the business models, and we see it with the autonomous driving. What we are trying to do here is to do the things in parallel. We are working on the business model and on the innovation simultaneously. I said it before. We believe that it is no more acceptable for the new generation to have a car with frozen functionalities. So we will have, and also because the technology is improving very fast. So we will have to propose different use cases and different business models to the people. To make it very simple, the first one, we call it pay to use. And pay to use is more on software upgrade or on software ignition of an functionality. The second one, we call it configure to use, where it is in fact a combination of hardware and software. Hardware which is pre-equipping the car. I'll give you an example of that. We have very small loudspeakers in the headrests. And we have a camera which is monitoring the passenger. With these three elements, we can provide an active noise cancellation bubble. So this active noise cancellation bubble, you buy it or not. This is also, important for what I said before, variabilizing the fixed costs. You can buy it for a trip and a trip only. We have, put the microphones inside the speakers, inside the headrest. We take ourselves the risk on the business model. If, the function we provide is good enough, if the function is working well, the people will buy it. I give you another example, audio systems. In most of the cases, when you buy a car, you don't try the audio system. And as most of us, we are not able to really assess the quality of this audio system if we are not put in a situation where we can compare it. So what we can do with especially surfaces we can excite, which are not using loudspeakers anymore, we can enhance the sound system with hardware, with these exciters, and with the software. And we can even understand what kind of music you are listening to, and we can make specific settings in order to further improve the quality of your embarked system. So this is the kind of things we will more and more provide, and this is also, what we are considering, including, the digital continuity. We spoke about that. You have started a game at home. You are, getting transferred to your car. You have to go somewhere. You just continue where you left it at home, in your car. Same thing for in video, for example. One thing which I would like, to ask you, Jean-Philippe, and I think it's an important point, and it was also, I have to say, one of the key criteria when we selected, Microsoft as a partner on our side, is data protection. Yeah? I think that people, consumers, will realize more and more that their related data have a value for them. And we will have to guarantee the integrity of these data. So we need, to have built with the consumer a trustful relationship, including for data-related questions. How do you deal with this within Microsoft?
No, it's very true, Patrick, that our two companies had deep discussion, both from a strategy standpoint, but also from a security data platform standpoint, what it takes. The reality is automotive companies are consuming huge amounts of data. And yet, the business model could be very different from a tech perspective. We are a platform company. We've been very clear since day one that we are not going to actually use the data insights of our customers. In other words, we're going to run that data platform on behalf of Volkswagen, automotive companies, working with Faurecia, but the data insight and all those data properties are actually owned by the customers, not by us. It's a very important principle we run, and all the IP that can be created as well is our customers' IP. Number two, we've been also creating an holistic approach for data, which we call the digital feedback loop. And on the slide you may see now, maybe in the next click, you're going to see that we have been building, in a way, a framework to enable those automotive industry companies to basically make sense of all the data that goes and span across the organization, all the way from the product signals to the customer interactions, to the employees' interactions, and to the core operations. And digital feedback loop is both a set of common data standards, but also a set of basically a data estate strategy to enable companies like Faurecia and others to have an end-to-end view of the processes they want to enable through the data insights, and then be able to develop new business models to monetize the data on the way they want to do it. So at the end of the day, what you'll see happening is those companies, those OEMs, are really critical for them is really to lead with their brands and monetize the services they sell on behalf of their brands. And that's what we want to enable as a platform company, Patrick, and that's why we are very proud of working with you to enable such scenarios across the entire automotive industry.
So I think that this is concluding our presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Philippe. And I hope to see you in our booth. We will be pleased together to show you what we are doing and what we are suggesting for the next future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.